Right, so this is, Steve's called it a performance. I don't know if I'd call it a performance. I want to talk about art writing, which is not writing about art, but it's art as writing, writing as art. So it's related to the real world that we're in, but it's a kind of disconnected space, I think, sometimes. And I've come to this because I spent a lot of my life writing, and I wrote academic stuff. And what I realised after years, I should have realised very early, but is nobody reads it. And you perfect this skill of writing for an audience, and that, you get a few reads, but it's actually impenetrable for a lot of people. But the ideas are not, if the ideas are worth having. And so I've come up with this thing called Fragments that I've been thinking about, that I'm going to talk to you about, but I'm going to do it via the means of this. And I wrote that this morning. And it was important to me that I did write this morning because it's about memory. And I was at a gig last night. I'm going to start off with that. The story of this will develop from this. I'll tell you a little bit more as it goes on. So I was at the Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds gig, and I was aware of being awestruck. It does not happen a lot. I suppose by some kind of definition, if everything was awe-inspiring, nothing would be. It sort of has to be beyond the ordinary, and last night really was. The whole spectacle is intense. I danced but only a little, rocking more. It was impossible to take away eyes from all that went on. The singers in silver cloaks, the band beautifully set behind instruments that were in part installations, sound sculptures, just needing musicians to bring to life. Even with just a guitar, the sounds were alive, shapes as well as sounds. The words lit the air between stage and ears, every ear. Huge backdrops illuminated several sentences, words, phrases. All of them turned to gold in an alchemist cauldron of sound and light. We left and were almost stunned but beaming, as all around us, thousands of others seemed enriched, spirits renewed. It's called the Wild God Tour, and there was definitely something of Billy Graham evangelism that was clear. This was invocation and incantation, prayer and elevation. This was powerful. After, I had a message off my friend. Am I okay for tomorrow at the Haworth? Something I thought, is that still happening? A chance to read a few fragments, literally that, fragments. These 200 to 600 word stories I'm crafting as memory files. The way we see the past, which we call memory, but which are in fact fragmented stories we tend to live by, like conscious dreams, semi-conscious. But these we strip of mystery and fantasy and claim to be true. They're not really. They're fragments, and as we write them out, we start to see them change, like a colour wheel that we grow to know enough to manipulate what the eye sees. Fragments are those stories we've been manipulated enough so the soul sings, or weeps, or laughs, or loves, but still stories. Ones we want enough that we put in a chest and store and look at every now and then. Maybe not seeing every time that when we take them out, like an Etch-a-Sketch, the charcoal borders drift a little. It changes every time. Stories so short they test the writer. 200 words possibly, never more than 600. I said I'd do it, and I'm going to do it, and I'm here, so I'm doing it. I'm opening with this because it's just arrived, and it seemed to insist, and I am aware that this is as strong an opening as any as I've got hidden in the chest, and they'll shift when I take them out anyway. I'll do Duende, Me and Amina, maybe the whale. That I think about a lot, especially in Accrington, in art galleries. That's in the chest, but not on the page. I'll do that now. What I think will help is framing this whole thing for creators of art in the room of the art open. That every piece is also a story, it's a fragment, and it's part of a conscious dream. And then from there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about examples of fragments that have been pre-written. And part of this idea of us being able to write the art, And one thing I'm really definitely not is a reviewer of art. So I've opened with that gig thing because you talk about your experience of it, not a critique of the thing itself. And I think when we look at art and we involve with art, there is no single story, not even the artists, because the artist's story will change about what they did to that, what it came from, what it means, how they've brought it to life. And every time they tell the story, they will change that story. They will, because they have to, because it's not fixed, it's not fact. This is my story. I call it the Fern Gore Whale because I'm in Accrington. I used to live in Fern Gore. Fern Gore Avenue, 1995. The council come to tidy round the shops. We lived opposite. They put in some plants, blew a leaf blower over the litter. Came at 10, gone by 12. When I went out, there was a wooden trellis, still concertinaed, shut, thrown in our garden, behind the fence. I was ecstatic. It was pristine and it was the only new thing on the street. I needed canvas and this was my gift. I covered it partially in papier-mâché, started to add the litter left by the blower, which was all of it. This was me, sculptor, at work. With wire and more soggy paper to bind cans and wrappers, the trellis became a whale. I saw it clearly midpoint. An indictment to man's destruction of the planet. Of course it was. A whale of litter, just waiting for me to find it. A whale on a 6 foot by 3 foot trellis. It needed paint. I had white emulsion. I could get turmeric and sage, which I got from Shab's shop. He'd been watching the garden studio anyway, and he said I could have the sage, but I'd have to buy the yellow spices. I mixed it with a white glue. Sage is green, but lent blue-green to the paint. The whale had a sea sheen now, blues, greens, dusty yellows. It was magnificent. Shab said, I think it probably tastes better than it looks. I put it on the bedroom wall, above the bed, dominant and golden now. Aluminium of Tizer, Cork, Tennant Super, sparkling in the late evening sun. We lay under it. Our reminder of planetary destruction and our resistance through art. Months later, it fell off. Maybe it recalled its own weight. There was some blood, not a lot, not mine. The whale went out the window, later in the bin, sent off with angry words, run ahead with a plaster on it. I have thought since, if only they had an open exhibition in them days, would he have made it through? Not with Steve judging. So that's the Fern Gore whale. And it's actually true, I did make that whale, it did fall off, it did hit somebody on there, it did go through a window, and it is no more. But the concept of the stories is that each time that you tell them, or whatever you tell them, they become just a feature of memory coming through in little stories, nice stories. Shall I do one more? Are you ready? I've got a few, but I'm only going to do one more. Yeah. Okay. This is about my childhood, really, in a way, but it's called Duende. Every child needs a generous adventurer, one who does new stuff and shares it, not hoards it. We had Ken, Mum's brother. He was the youngest, a plumber. He gave me the ragged trouser philanthropist when I was 10, but I did not understand it. He told me that people who mocked us because of our name were idiots. He was the first person we knew to fly. He went to Spain in 1978. Brought back a doll for my sister. Black lace, black hair, red dress, long arms aloft, dancing. We got castanets, one pair, wooden, mysterious. Spaniards have duende, a fire inside that only comes out through music, he said. Out front on our terrace street, against the fumes of a main road, we danced. I clicked and clacked and created castanet chaotica. 5 of us while dancing, singing what we thought Spanish must sound like. A cardboard drum beat an even deeper rhythm. Arms shaped like our doll guide, we swept higher and wilder and felt the blood fizz of duende, of freedom. Cars disappeared from our consciousness, except one, a van slowing down, window opening, a fat head lolls out, yellow teeth exposing bitter anger. Get back to Russia. It's Spain, Lithuania, shouts back my sister, doll thrust towards him like a spear. And so that's the final one I'll do. But in those, they become like little motifs. We do tell a similar story to each other. I've got one about Red Clogs, about a guy who lives down a mine and frightens kids away from mine shafts. But we all have them. And at a point in life, which is almost immediate, we merge reality with our telling of that reality. And I think that's an important little idea, that if we can write them, but don't write them as novels, because novels take too long to read and they also change over that period of time. But we try to condense them in this fragment that is maybe 200 words long. That was 200 words long exactly. The other one was over 480. But if we get those words and we condense them in that way, we can kind of fix them for just for a period of time, that we can analyse ourselves. And I think that's true of the art. I think that's what people do when they create art. They try to fix some kind of reality, even though by the time it's finished, it's not the reality out there when you started. And yeah, so thank you very much for listening. It's been nice to